Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave. I'm Renee Barrow, the practical shaman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave.
Do you want to tell us what the topic is today?
Yeah, Renee and I have actually been talking for probably an hour about this topic, and so we're gonna put it together, hopefully, in a way that uh, we can do a show on it. And I'll start with something that I've come to a revelation about, because we've been talking about nervous system issues a lot on this show because they're so prevalent right now when you look at how many nervous system programs there are that you can sign up for, how many online courses you can take for somatic therapy, for calming down your trauma, which is all part of nervous system work. I mean, it's like, is anybody teaching anything else out there? I start to wonder. And our topic today is about stop cowering in the corner. And what happened for me was I had an experience which I wrote up fully in my May Transmutation News, which will be out the end of April. But just to give a short um, explanation of how this goes into the show that we're doing, is I had the experience with a group to merge with a spirit and, um, merge with the Isis, who is one of the major spirits I work with. She's not the only one, but, she works with me on world issues. And I had the opportunity to do a very, very special ceremony where I was looking out of her eyes, and I could see what she was seeing of where, human beings are right now. And what ISIS was seeing is that we've been doing so much work to find our light. Transfiguration is the practice I teach in every single workshop, which is understanding that you're only light, you're only light. Your body is your clothing, it's clothing that covers your light. And so everything is about how do we expand our light? How do we expand our shamanic practices so that we can be of highest service in the world? But what Isis was seeing is, as we say, this is the work that we're doing. We keep raising our frequency, trying to become more evolved beings, step out of the norm. That's what everybody wants to do right now is step out of the norm. And what she was seeing is that we are doing an amazing job of expanding our energies, really expanding our energies well. But we have so much fear in our bodies at the same time that's clogging our nervous systems. So our bodies are actually in a fight situation, if to call it in one way, of expand. No, don't expand. It's too dangerous to expand, shut down. But we're already expanded. And so how do you shut down? And that's what we're doing. And so is that making us shake and tremor?
Mm, absolutely. For the last year or two, or ever since all of the dissension out in the world, I hate to create dissension. I'm a Libra. I like I like it to be balanced, right? So there's nothing more harsh on my soul than this dissonance that's going on. And the one people believing that theirs is the only truth and the other people believing that theirs is the only truth and feeling no shame or no way to like filter this. There's no filtering of how people feel about each other who have different points of view. And so for me, what it did for me was I was cowering in the corner. I didn't wanna comment on people's posts for fear that they were going to, lash out and attack me. And last week, I went to the march, and I went to the march because I wanted to be in the power of the group.
Right.
I wanted to be in an empowered group that felt like they were grabbing their power back, and I didn't even we didn't even mention that when we were talking, but all of a sudden, I got goosebumps on my arms, and all the signs were different, and I don't know what people's, leanings were or anything, but they were out there, and they were vibing off the energy of people when they get together for a common cause. And after that, I didn't feel like it was necessary to hide in the corner anymore because I know some of the people who have very different viewpoints than other people. I know that they've done a lot of deep work on themselves. And I know that they're good people with a good heart. But this ability to, bully people back into the corner with our words and our action is not helping us at all.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the power of the demonstrations. I haven't been to one, and I won't. I'm just not in the place of health to be at one. But as everybody knows, because I talk about it endlessly, I was always out there in the late 60s. I was out there every day on Wall Street with tens of thousands of marchers, and we were all together. And there is an incredible strength of coming together in community. And what I'm hearing about right now is everybody who is going to these marches are saying the exact same words you're saying to me, Renee. The exact same words. I needed to stand strong in a community with other people. And now that I've done that, I feel that community feeling inside of myself. I feel that I'm not standing alone. I feel like I can stand up now and use my voice in a different way because I have been too scared to use it. And so there is that incredible power of community that reminds us of our strengths, so that we don't have to fall into a place of fear.
Mhm. And so if you're in that place of fear, my recommendation is to find that community in person. I'm a big proponent of in-person gatherings because I think that once we turn off our Zoom cameras and our workshops, that we can't see the isolation that people are experiencing in their own inner little worlds and their inner sanctums. But not that I'm saying that that doesn't help people come back out, but that there was something that I could feel that was palatable in the air, and I think that it's really important for us to find those feelings again. And I think we kind of veered off the topic a little bit, but Sandra had a meeting with people in person, and she was able to receive new information or different information or process it differently by actually being in the room with them, and probably sent home all of these warriors with a little bit more bravado.
Absolutely. We all left with a lot of bravado, and when, I was using, regalia, which is used in, Central Asia, South Asia, it's a very key practice in shamanism, and I found that myself, this is just me, working with regalia, does not compare with any medicine on the planet, for me. And so when I work with regalia, and what that does is it takes you out of your humanness so that you're just in spirit form and you're seeing out of your helping spirit's eyes. It's unbelievable because we're seeing a foot in front of us and our spirits are seeing a million miles in front of us. To have that opportunity to actually be one with a spirit's eyes and seeing a million miles away, I can't tell you what it does to your body. Um, it's such a wonderful experience, so freeing, and how much we limit ourselves, how little we allow ourselves to hear, feel, see, touch, smell. I mean, we have suppressed by hovering, cowering in the corner and hovering. We have suppressed our spiritual power. We've suppressed our senses to enjoy and absorb what life is actually trying to give to us. And when we expand, out of a place of fear and expand and allow our spiritual strength to really shine through, um, there is no illness, and there is no fighting, and there's a whole different perception of life, and our perception creates our reality. That's a spiritual truth that I don't think anybody can fight with.
That brings up an interesting question, and I would love your input on this. So so say that I'm a regular journeyer, and there's probably a lot of people who are listening to this who do take regular journeys. Is my journey influenced by my fear? I'd really, I mean, this is really more your area of expertise, but like if I'm sourcing out, like I'm going out from a place of where I'm what you called the elephant in the hut,
Mhm.
am I being influenced by the journey that I'm about to have, or does it transcend that?
Yeah, so the metaphor that, Renee just shared is a metaphor I've shared, my May Transmutation News, so I hope people will read that one.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, but what it was basically is my husband was telling a story about the great Indian guru Ramana Maharshi, who had been awake since the age of 9, and he had an amazing amount of followers. He only taught oneness, and he's really well known. I'm sure many of you are familiar with his work who are listening. And when he was 70, he started tremoring all the time. And his disciples were, "How can we help you?" And he said, "You can't help me. This is what happens when you put um, a, a gigantic elephant in a tiny hut." So, what that refers to is gigantic spiritual energy in a tiny body. So, when we journey, if we're in fear, we're always stopping ourselves from going farther into the spiritual realms. And this is a discussion I'm having now with people who have trained with me to teach and be practitioners. Is shamanic journeying has never been an out of body experience. It is an out of body experience in our culture because people who had a lot of trauma, they love to leave their body and go to the spiritual where there's love. But that's what shamanism. Shamanism was not developed to be an escape from your life, but that's how people are using it in the modern day. Um, in true shamanism, you take your body with you, fully with you, so that you're walking in the lower world and you feel the gravel under your feet, or you're in the upper world and you're in a crystal palace or a crystal cave where you're getting healing and you can feel and touch the crystals, and they're real, and you're touching them. It's not a vision. You're actually, all your senses are engaged. And so, as I said before, if you're in a state of fear, you're suppressing your senses. And so that means you're going to suppress your senses once you get into the unseen realms. And so, from what I can see, and I've been journeying for 44 years. from what I could just see from the other just a few weeks ago of looking through Isis's eyes, I can say that, Sandra, you need to go back into your journeys and you need to expand your vision and you need to expand your senses because you're suppressing how much insight that you're getting because you're only going so far. And what happens if we allow ourselves to, yes, we want to keep our boundaries. We need to be able to be present in the world. And so the trick is how far can you go without losing your mental health? Um, it's like taking medicine. How far can you go and still be centered and grounded in this life and continue to work and live in the middle world, which is where we live? But are we really in our journeys? Are we really opening up fully our sight, our sense of smell, our sense of hearing, our sense of touch, our sense of taste to the absolute power of what the spirits can actually show us, and I cannot believe that we're meeting that where we can, because we're just the seed of source. We are not less than our spirits. We just took a body which separates ourselves a little bit more. But what would happen if we allow ourselves to see farther? And hear farther and smell farther and taste farther and feel much deeper into all the layers of our body, into the deepest part of our soul, um, how would our journeys change?
Mm. When you were talking, I was seeing that, say we've got these like really two opposing sides. They're both going into the same cave. One's going down this chamber and the other one's going down that chamber, but they're both dead ending.
Right.
They're both dead ending because really if we push through that vision, we'd see that, what really matters lies beyond those stone walls we're both facing, and maybe that's where the meeting takes place. I think that's like there's some real interesting food there for some thought and deeper journeys for sure. With
Yeah. Yeah. And what we can do to really help the world. I really feel that some people are very tired, and some people do need to do certain work before they move into expansion. Because if you're really tired, you're really burnt out, you have a lot of sickness in your body. Expanding can also create some problems too.
Mhm.
So we all have to go with what is physically possible, but how much are we willing to expand our boundaries of what's possible? And so, one of the books that I'm going to go back and read again, which I referenced in Medicine for the Earth, is a book by Dion Fortune, who was kind of a cult leader back in the old days. And she wrote about working with a high level group. And I know her work, I know her history. It's strong, it's solid. She was the real thing. And she worked with a group and they really focused on the deepest meditation they could during World War II. And she has very compelling evidence in the book that I referenced to. Um, I can't remember if it was the mystical Kabbalah or the magical Kabbalah. I put it in my transmutation news in May. And she talked about how they were able to do experiments and prove that some of their meditations changed the events of the war.
Mm.
And they were not cowering in the corner.
Mhm. Well, my guess too is that they had to go beyond their limited idea of what they think is writing, that they have to go beyond their limited vision and version of the story. Like, the storyline might be, to me, the storyline is, it might be, have a glitch, you know? And so maybe it's going between the stories to get to, the real truth of where we're at. And Sandra and I have covered this a lot of times about, where nature is in its own cycle, and, that we're part of this breaking down of nature. And when we're grasping to one story or another story is like trying to grasp the tree branch that's falling from the tree because it's dying. So I'm just more about I don't know where my stories are, where I'm sourcing my stories from anymore, and I'm really looking for a new story.
Right. Yeah. I'm finding for myself, I am not disconnected from empathy and compassion in any way whatsoever. I've been when I look at my life, um I always have to be in compassion and empathy because I made it through some really, really horrific things. And so I know what a lot of people are going through right now, but I am allowing myself to expand more. And I'm finding that it really gives me a sense of peace, and I also feel that I think everybody can relate to this. There are so many multiple dimensions going on right now. I mean, if you think about it, you got the spiritual community, you got young people who are making different choices about work and life. You've got war, you've got homelessness. There are so many different dimensions of reality. And years ago, I used to write in my transmutation news that ISIS would share, make sure you know which dimension of reality that you want to be in because the doors are closing between the dimensions, and you might end up in exactly the reality that you never wanted to be in. You focused all your energy on that reality, so that's where you are. You stepped into that door. And so, what is the dream that you want to be dreaming as you come out of cowering from the corner? And what dimension of reality do you want to be in? And expansion, nature expands. It
Mhm.
expands. I mean, go out and be with the ocean, go out and be with the wind, sit on the earth and imagine the entire earth that you're sitting on instead of that few feet of earth that you're sitting on. Look at the power of the sun, really feel it. That's the kind of expansion we really want to get to, but we have to build ourselves up physically to be able to hold that kind of energy. But I think that a lot of suffering for a lot of us in the spiritual community is coming from cowering in the corner. I
Mhm.
think it's actually hurting our bodies. I think it's hurting our um our mental state of consciousness.
Mm. I love this. I think we can add to this, and you hopefully you at home will add to it over at the Shamans Cave and on YouTube channel and wherever else you listen to your podcast. When you were talking, I was thinking of a nice ending. Was that last night I was tired. I have a big conference coming up, and I'm doing a lot of teaching, and I was tired, and so I went out to take a walk, and I wanted to go to the mountain, and the wind was coming at me really strong. And the message was, you don't always have to go against the wind, Renee. You don't always have to resist. And so what we did was we took a right, walked down the city block, and then I went towards the mountain again, and the wind was too strong, so we cut up another city block, and that was good.
Mm.
Wind helped me instead of working against me. So as you move out from the corner and you stop that cowering, flow with the wind instead of against it.
That's right. Flow with the river of life.
Mhm. So we'll see you again really soon, and we have another great topic coming up right behind this one, and we will talk to you soon.
Have a good one, everyone. Sending lots of love and blessings, and see you soon.